Hello, everyone. Luciano Oliveira here, Oliveira Lawyers. Today is Sunday, January the 21st, and I welcome participants to suggest a topic of your interest to be discussed here in our channel. I just had a couple of consultations about taxation in Brazil, and taxation is always a concerning topic to foreign citizens. Of course, particularly those buying properties in Brazil and those picking Brazil for a long-term stay, such as retirement or the digital nomad visa, and so on. Okay, so if you have questions regarding taxation, let me know and address such topics. All right, that's interesting. The first question is addressing taxes. Dr. Orange, hi Luciano, I believe Brazil taxes global wealth for its residents. Do you have any advice on how to minimize this burden, such as trusts? So, trusts, they are not legally recognized in Brazil, and Brazil is going to look at the assets owned by individuals, but for taxation, it's going to be more dated, right? So if you have either a trust or if you have an LLC, at the end of the day, Brazil is going to be looking at your income and not necessarily assets. Okay, there is some level of asset disclosure when you're filing your taxes in Brazil, but just as the name says, the income tax is going to focus on the income that you have. Okay, in terms of minimizing the tax burden, particularly if you are looking for something really long term, how you structure your income in the U.S. is, of course, have like a different result in how you gonna pay your taxes in Brazil. So yes, it is possible to do some planning, particularly from this perspective. But if you think about your income abroad from a static perspective, there is not much you can do, of course, right? Like, I mean, there is not much creativity in terms of how you're going to enter your income in Brazil. But again, if you're thinking about long term, then yes, there is a certain way you can potentially structure your income in the US for the purpose of minimizing your income potential, both in the US and Brazil as well. Terry Roswell, welcome, Terry. Terry is always here with us. Hi, Luciano. Question about renewing the 90-day tourist visa. I have two passports. It is possible to use 180 days with one passport and another 180 days with a different passport. So there are two parts to this answer. The first one, of course, the immigration is thinking about you as an individual. They are not thinking about you as a passport. So if we go by the books, if we interpret the Brazilian immigration law as it is, talking about a single period of time for you as an individual, not as a passport. Another heads up here, Terry, is that the 80 days was pretty much taken for granted by the foreign citizens and expats in Brazil. But this is changing substantially as we speak. Last year, for instance, particularly before the new administration, so not only last year, but actually in 2022, you could basically just go to the Polícia Federal and say, I want an extension, right? And they would rubber stamp your passport. Nowadays, this has been changing substantially. So one of the first notices we had about this change, it was from a client. He went there, just to get the rubber stamping on the 180 days, meaning like he got the original 90 days and he was asking for an additional 90 days to reach the 180. And Polícia Federal said, well, why are you asking that? And he said, well, I want to stay longer. And then they said, well, wanting to stay longer in Brazil is not enough reason. You need to show a compelling reason to get an extension, right? And we are hearing this more and more, which means, it's not more rubber stamping, but you need to provide some type of, reasonable basis for asking for an extension, such as, I don't know, like you caught COVID, okay? You have like a COVID result and you're able to board to other passengers in danger, and therefore you're asking for an extension, right? As long as you ask, I'm sure the Polícia Federal is going to find this as a compelling reason for granting you the 90 days. So that's the first, thing for you to know. The second one is, in theory, it is well possible for you to passports as long as the identification system from the Polícia Federal does not find you to be the same person, okay? And nowadays, when you arrive in Brazil, the customs, they have one of those systems that are gonna, collect your picture, and they are gonna add this picture to their database. We have news of clients using two passports successfully. However, just for the sake of your peace of mind, we do not recommend this route, because if they find out about you using two passports to circumvent the immigration laws in place, I mean, they are probably avoid your current stay and potentially have you expelled, because that would be from the immigration perspective like an attempt to like circumvent the country laws. And Brazil is pretty lenient most of the time, but when you do something that they think it's like bad faith based, they usually change their operation mode from lenient to severe. Okay, Terry, but it's a pretty reasonable question, and like I said, we know of some clients who have used successfully two passports, but again, we do not recommend. Giraffe, our HD, welcome, Giraffe. Would you recommend getting the rentista? And would it be possible to qualify for a rentista using savings lump sum instead of passive income monthly? Rentista using savings lump sum. Rentista. Giraffe, rentista, it could be rent, right? It could be some type of income that you are addressing. If you could please clarify what you mean by rentista, can probably give you a better answer. Heat, well, olá, sou o americano. Ouvi dizer que pessoas não precisam ser 60 para ter um retirement visto, se é verdade, porque o Brasil fala isso, regra, grato. All right, Kate, thank you for writing in Portuguese. Feel free to write in English. I understand you are an American citizen, and you probably heard that people do not need to be 60 to obtain a retirement visa. And you're probably asking, if people don't need to be retired, why the visa says retirement visa, right? So the whole point of the retirement visa, like if you think from the Brazilian government perspective, is to have people with a solid string of income staying in Brazil, right? Think about that as a policy. they are not so attached to the concept that you are retired or not, right? Like, of course, the visa says retirement visa, but I can give you an example that maybe is going to help you understand the concept. We have many retirement visa clients from the U.S. military. Okay, they like our service. They tell their friends, and now all of a sudden we could probably have even like a military division inside the firm because of the number of clients we have from the U.S. military. We happen to have one of our clients. He's not even 40 years old. Okay, so he happens to be retired because of his specifics. I'm not going to disclose it. It's like private information. But the point is, like, he has a retirement income from the U.S. military, and he's not 40 years old. So nobody is going to tell him not to come to Brazil because he's not 60, right? He's not even 40, but he does have a retirement income. And as per our experience, we can tell that Brazil is not really making a big deal out of the age as long as the person has retirement income, okay? Because that's the whole point. Brazil wants people or foreign citizens spending money in Brazil while receiving money from abroad, right? Like that's the best case scenario. Brazil is getting income, Brazil is getting taxes, and this is coming from another country. So that's the purpose of the retirement visa. And as long as you have a retirement income, Brazil is not going to be attached to the age. Okay, Teeth? I hope that makes sense. And if you think from the, like the example I gave you, the military person, he's not even 40, but he's coming to Brazil because he has retirement income. And he is actually retired, right? Like in his case, he's actually retired. But we have other cases when the person has enough retirement income and this person is still active, right? And we're not going to address that in the application because it's outside of the scope. But as long as we can show that the person has retirement income, we've been applicants consistently. Alex Grutza, is your firm able to obtain official federal criminal record of Brazil and have it apostilled? Yes, Alex, and there are a couple of distinctions. The problem with the criminal records in Brazil for foreign citizens is because foreign citizens, they don't fit neatly into the Brazilian Federal Police database. So many times when people ask us, listen, can you get us a criminal record with the apostille, that creates some potential burden, such as visiting Polícia Federal in person, okay, with a power of attorney. So that creates like, all of the additional needs. In addition to that, to get the apostille, like we may need to know, like if the registry is going to accept whatever the Polícia Federal is providing. Let me give you an example. If we need to attend in person an appointment with the Polícia Federal, and there is an officer signing for that specific, records, we would need to chase like the registry that has the signature for the officer in order to get the apostille, right? So there is like so many nuances to that usually it's many times more complex than getting the federal police records for a Brazilian. Okay, for a Brazilian, the records are going to be kind of standard, and they are going to be issued like automatically, systemically, with a type of QR code or another type of code that's going to allow the second registry, right? Like there's going to be a second department involved to issue the apostille, but it's going to be easier because the registry, the second registry, the registry in charge of the apostille, they are going to be validating this thing electronically and potentially issuing the apostle without having to check on signatures or the person, the officer in charge of issuing the records. Okay, I hope that helps, but always feasible. Okay, Alex. Like at the end of the day, it's just a matter of how much trouble it's going to be involved in getting first the records, and second to have the apostle issued for the records. Dr. Orange, if I own a short-term rental property in Brazil, but I am tax resident outside of Brazil, do I pay income tax on the property income in Brazil or the country where I am tax resident? Dr. Orange, thank you for clarifying. First thing, whenever you have a taxable transaction in Brazil, not surprisingly, Brazil is gonna want you to pay taxes in Brazil. Okay, so if you have a short-term rental property in Brazil, I think that the threshold is like between 27 and 28 thousand Brazilian reais. So if you're getting 25,000 Brazilian reais a year, in theory, you don't need to file taxes in Brazil. If you're making 50,000 Brazilian reais, which means roughly like 10,000 US dollars, then yes, you need to file taxes in Brazil. You're gonna pay 25%, probably 25% income tax bracket. Okay, and apart from the U.S., you also gonna need to pay taxes on your Brazilian income because both Brazil and the U.S. they charge like taxes on an individual global income. But the U.S., just like Brazil, what they are gonna do, they are gonna apply whatever you're paying abroad in taxes as credit to your taxes in the U.S. So if you're paying 25% in Brazil and in the US, your tax bracket is 20%, potentially you're not going to pay anything because what you pay in Brazil it's in excess to what you would pay in the US, and therefore you're not going to pay anything. Of course, I am simplifying the dynamics, but that's pretty much the concept behind this kind of cross-border taxation. If you're paying 25% in Brazil and your tax bracket in the US, for instance, is 27.5, then you would pay potentially 2.5% tax on your income from Brazil. Okay, Dr. Orange, I hope that helps. Giraffe, again, apologies. It's a retirement visa. Rentista was the Spanish word. All right. Thank you for trying. I'm sure you know, like, we have a Portuguese in Brazil. There is a lot of common words, right? Like between Portuguese and Spanish. Something very, interesting or even funny, like whenever Brazilians are in the U.S., Spanish speakers, they are going to assume that Brazilians, they know every single Spanish word. And what causes a lot of trouble is because we do know a bunch of Spanish words. Maybe, I don't know, like there could be an overlapping like between 60 to 70% between the two languages. But even if that's a lot, there's still like between 30 to 40% of the words that are not going to make any sense to us, right? And if we are in the US and someone starts to speak with us in Spanish, we kind of can communicate, but we're going to miss a lot of the nuances. And if we say we don't want to speak in Spanish, people are going to consider Brazilians like, well, they don't want to, they don't want to look like Spanish, or, and we are Latinos, we're not Hispanics, we are Latinos, right? And that's a source of confusion and aggravation sometimes. So I just wanted to share because I think it's an interesting perspective when you think about Spanish and Portuguese and Hispanics and Latinos. But yes, thanks for sharing. So you're talking about the retirement visa for a retirement, like Brazil wants you to have majorly a traditional retirement source of income. Okay, so if your income it's entirely coming from a short-term rental, right? Then sorry, I think I mixed up the questions. Dr. Orange was talking about short-term rental property, but tax resident outside of Brazil. Do I pay income tax? So we took care of this one. Cooper, Giraffe, AD. Apologies, is a retirement visa. Rentista was a Spanish word. Yeah. So for retirement, your income gotta come from retirement sources. So most traditional one, it's gonna be, of course, like Social Security. If we're talking about the U.S., you have a bunch of other traditional types of income, such as 401k. You have the IRA, the traditional one. You have the Roth IRA. You can have even something that's more like private based, such as a pension fund. You could have annuities and so on. So Brazil, it's flexible enough to understand. Like a retirement income can come from different types of sources. Brazil will want to see that your retirement is steady, okay, because that's the whole point. They don't want to have something that's not steady. So if you're talking about, short-term rental, that would not qualify as a retirement income. However, Brazil is also flexible. For instance, the number that you need to show is like $2,000 a month. And if you are able to show only 1,500 coming from a traditional source of retirement income, you could potentially complement this 1,500 with like short-term rental. Okay, so usually that's not going to be a problem as long as the bulk of your income is coming from a traditional retirement type of income. Terry Roswell, I know you prefer not to assist with investment visa using company due to litigation, but can we use the company to purchase property to the value of the 1,500 to get the investment visa? All right, so you're going to use the company to purchase property. So there's, if you use the company to buy property, right? There's gonna be a separation of the analysis. Immigration is going to look at the company. They're not going to worry if you're buying a property or not. However, remember when you're going, the company investment route, just getting the money in the country is not going to be enough to secure the residency visa, because there is a requirement for you to create job positions. Okay, so if you could basically just set up a business entity, and through this business entity buy a company, that would be a great kind of workaround. The trouble that running a business in Brazil is going to bring. However, you're not going to be able to overcome the need for creating formal job positions in Brazil, and these job positions they would come with all sorts of strings, such as paying like for the many labor obligations. You will need to provide like a Christmas bonus to the employees, which we call like the 13th salary. We don't call it Christmas bonus, but for some reason it's easier to make to explain the concept to foreign citizens. Workers in Brazil, they have a right to 30 days of vacation time per year from the get-go. It's not like in the US, you start with, I don't know, a week or 10 days, and you increase a few days per year. Over time in Brazil, you get 30 days right off the bat, you need to pay in full, even though they are going to be vacations. There is actually even an increase on the salary for that particular month. In addition to that, like if you fire an employee without cause, you're going to need to pay a penalty, okay? A penalty, a substantial penalty because you fire an employee. Like there is a traditional fake, bogus labor lawsuits that are still pretty common in Brazil. So even if you use the company to, buy a property, you're not going to get the residency visa just by spending the 500,000 in Brazil. You're going to need to create a number of work positions in Brazil, and you're going to need to keep those employees. Okay, so all in all, pretty desirable route in our opinion. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Alex Grutz, can you please clarify Brazilian national living in the U.S. Needs criminal record or of birth country to use for a Portuguese citizenship? So that's a very specific application, right? And I think a consultation would be a better route for you to have such answers, if you allow me, Alex, because there would be a number of questions we would need to ask you in order to advise on that route. It's curious for the Golden Visa, what is considered the North 700,000? Is it Goiânia, Brazilian, considered North or South? 7,000 versus a million. Okay. So traditionally, for the Golden Visa, it's not just the North, it's also the Northeast, right? So the North is gonna be Amazonas, okay, the state of Amazonas, the state of Pará, the state of Acre, the state of Roraima. All right, I think I'm missing one, but I told you some of the North states, and then let's talk about the Northeast. The Northeast, it's gonna be Ceará, it's gonna be Rio Grande do Norte, Bahia, it's gonna be Pernambuco, okay, and I'm probably missing some states there, but these are the states. So Goiânia, you're probably talking about Goiás, the state of Goiás. It's not north; it's considered like center west. We call it center west. Brasilia is the Distrito Federal. You're probably talking about Goiânia, Brasilia because they're pretty close to each other. But there are two different areas. One is the state of Goiás. The other one is the Distrito Federal, right? Brasilia is the capital of Brazil. And these two, the state of Goiás and Distrito Federal, which is not a state but has a status close to a state, they are not north. They are considered something else, okay? Because it's not south. The concept is north and northeast. You can work with 700,000 reais properties, and elsewhere it's going to be 1 million, right? Not just the south. So it's going to be the south, it's going to be the southeast, it's going to be the center west, and these areas they are going to have a 1 million reais requirement. All right, we have Moses Mibagwo. What is the chances that a client will be denied after buying a property worth 1 million reais and without criminal records? Moses, chances are usually low. I like to say that the Brazilian immigration, they like to, they like to approve people for the visas as long as they do reasonably meet the requirements. So no criminal records, you buying the property north of million reais, chances are pretty high. Usually the reasons for a denial, it's going to be when you don't send the money the right way, right? Like a lot of people, they just go out there, they buy a property, and then they send the money using Wise, like particularly if you're just sending using apps, right, over time, this money is not going to be considered for the property of the golden visa, so you need to send it in a very specific way. That could be a reason for denial. Another reason for denial, pretty common, is when people go out there and buy properties without proper legal title. Okay, and it's kind of common in some areas for properties to be sold, and the seller is not going to say, well, I don't have any papers, right? They are going to put a bunch of papers together, and they are going to tell you that these papers are, legally binding, they are legally valid, they are considered to be a title, and you don't know better, and you end up buying this property. And when you do not produce what's considered to be a legal title, most often known as registro do imóvel, this is going to be a reason for denial as well. So usually, aside of the fact that you're paying 1 million reais and that you have like clean criminal records, if you send the money the wrong way, if you buy a property that is not like qualifying, right, doesn't have a legal title, or for instance, it's rural, right? If you buy rural property, it's not going to qualify. If you're buying, like land in Amazon, like this is going to be rural land, that's not going to qualify. If you're buying a property that's not rural, and it has legal title, but it doesn't have the construction included in the title, that's another reason for denial. So there are about 10 reasons of why you could still be denied even after you buy a property worth 1 million reais and without criminal records, right? Moses, if you're going to invest this type of money, you should not do that by yourself. You need like legal counsel. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Dana, how far in advance should I get my background check? And do I need to order a newer certified birth certificate? I have one from the 80s. Someone said I need a newer one. All right, so a background check, they are usually good for 90 days. For 90 days, that's like the take from, different immigration agencies in Brazil or departments. I usually recommend you to get a fresh one for your application for your certified birth certificate. Uh, Recent one if you're buying real estate property in Brazil. But for immigration application purposes, we've been using birth certificates ranging from like, a few months old to several years old. One from the 80s, my concern is that they could be concerned if the document is legit or not, just because documents from the 80s, they were like, of course, they were not like computer based. I think, just for your peace of mind, you should get a newer one, okay? If you're talking about something issued, I don't know, in 2005, I think that the Brazilian immigration would feel comfortable about it. But if you're getting one from the 1980s, maybe they are going to be puzzled by, how old this document is, and they could have an issue with it. Okay, there is no regulation explaining how recent birth certificate should be, but there is a parallel to IDs in general. In Brazil, officers, or departments or agencies, they usually want a document to not to be older than 10 years, just because they understand that in 10 years, the person would change physically. I understand the birth certificate doesn't have this problem because it's not showing your picture on it, but still, because we have this type of practice of expecting a document to be newer than 10 years, there could be a parallel made by the officer in charge of reviewing application, and you want to make easier for this officer to accept your application, right? You don't want that person that that knows everything, like a smart pants person hammering on the officer because they should do differently. Like you don't want this person. You want to have your application, in a way that you're gonna make easy for the are asking for it. I hope that makes sense. Cooper, Giraffe, let's say someone has a lot in their bank account but no source of passive income. Would it be possible to still qualify for the retirement visa? No, that's not going to work. It got to be primarily a source of retirement income. So if you have a lot of money, potentially you could get annuities, right? Annuities is not super attractive. I get it. Not like the best investment from by most people's standards, but annuity it is considered a type of retirement income, particularly because it's steady, right? If you get annuity that are gonna get you $2,000 a month, usually like for the remainder of your life, and that's what the Brazilian government is looking for, right? Like type of income that's not gonna end like a couple of years down the road, and it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank if it is not like a retirement account type. It means that even though you have a lot of money in your bank, maybe 2 years down the road, you don't have it anymore, right? God forbid that, but that's the concept. So it doesn't matter if you have a couple of $1 million in a regular bank account, that's not going to get you the retirement visa. Terry Roswell, thanks Luciano, clear and informative answers as usual. Terry for participating with, like very interesting questions, and they help not only you but others. So keep participating and keep coming back. You're pretty welcome. Gerard, Nadine, hey guys, Lucian is a real find. All right, Gerard. Gerard is actually a client of ours. Like, I'm not going to share, of course, his specifics, but he had like a kind of challenging situation, and we were able to help him. A great client gave us a stellar review on Google, and we appreciate Gerard. Thank you so much, Gerard. You're pretty welcome. We're gonna be here. We're gonna be here for you. Okay. Let's see if we have any questions. Okay, I don't know if Catherine is here. Catherine is another client of ours. She's also a great client. She gave us a really nice review. We appreciate Catherine. I hope you're here. If you're not, I hope you join us in the future and ping some kind of comment here in the group. I know interesting ideas, and you are a very generous person, not only with our firm, but with your friends in Brazil as well. I hope you don't mind me saying so. So I hope Catherine is also in this life, right? We spoke about 10 days ago, and I know she sent us an email. We didn't have an opportunity to answer. We're going to be answering tomorrow. Catherine, okay? See if we have any other questions. Yes, we do have. Copper giraffe on top of purchasing a property, for example, 700,000 reais. What other fees are included, lawyer fees, etc. What would be the final cost? All right, so for closing costs, usually it's going to be between 3.5 and 5%. These are closing costs, right? They are not lawyer fees, they are closing costs. The main component of the closing cost is going to be the property transfer fee, which could range from percent to 3%. That's the most traditional bracket. Very rarely you're going to pay something like 4%, traditionally between 2 and 3%. In addition to the property transfer tax, you're also going to pay services provided by at least two registries. In Portuguese, we call them cartórios. You're going to have one cartório for the closing. The cartório has a hybrid nature. It's like it's a private entity. It's run by an officer, but the officer operates the registry on behalf of the government. So they have what we call a fé pública, or they are performing a governmental role, and as such, like when you have the closing done at this registry, it creates a presumption of a legally binding transaction between two parties. That's the first registry. And then there's going to be a second registry that's going to be of issuing title or the new deed. Okay, in Brazil, it's not exactly the same thing. I'm used to, deeds in the U.S., and they don't look like the deeds we have in Brazil. But we try to explain the concepts, thinking from a foreign citizen's perspective. So usually, first a registry is in charge of closing. Second registry is in charge of issuing deeds. Okay, and they are both gonna charge you big bucks. That's why on top of the property transfer fee, there's going to be a bunch of other fees. So altogether, usually 4% of the closing price. And if you are buying, particularly for the purpose of the golden fee, you're going to have the attorney costs. Some attorneys, they're going to charge you just for the golden visa application, and that's usually pretty reasonable. It could range from like $1,000 to $3,000. We are usually, we are usually very competitive for the application. When you ask us to help you with the transaction itself, usually our fee is going to be substantially higher than other local law firms. Mostly because we bring to the table like expertise in how transactions work abroad. And if you're hiring a law firm in Brazil, they have no clue about how things work abroad. In addition to that, we are able to assist with moving the money correctly. Most firms, they're going to say, listen, I don't know how, it's your problem to send the money to Brazil. And that's going to come with risk. This is going to come with income. This is going to come with currency exchange rates that are not going to be favorable, right? So all of that, when we work with a client, we're going to charge more than a local law firm, but you're going to get what you're paying for. And you guys probably know that, clients who work with us with real estate transactions, they are pretty satisfied. It's a massive work from our side. We usually have at least 200 activities in the lifespan of a real estate transaction in Brazil. So yes, we do charge substantially, but you get what you're paying for, okay? On the other side, people who try to do by themselves, we have every single week, we have someone coming to us with problems such as, they get possession, but they don't get legal ownership, or they, get legal ownership, but there is an issue with possession. They buy a property and they do not qualify for the golden visa because they bought a property that they should not have bought in the first place. That happens every single month, right? So you have a bunch of options. You can hire our firm, you can hire another firm, you can hire no firm, but at the end of the day, it's a choice that could come with different results, right? Okay, Pa, Paha, Pahalia, the third, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correct. I applied for the e-visa now, having problems with my passport photo. On the website, it says download 2x2 photo. I did it, but now they say downloaded 7x9 photo. That's impossible. Help. So, not sure if you are from the US. Just a heads up, like there was an expectation for the e visa to be required on January the 10th. Now it's January the 21st. But guess what? There was a postponement of the e visa requirement for US citizens, Australians, and Canadians. So if you are from one of those three countries, you don't need the e visa at least until April the 10th, right? In addition to that, like there is a dispute between the Brazilian federal administration and the Congress, right? The Congress doesn't want the Brazilian federal government chasing tourists from the U.S., Canada, and Australia. The prior administration got the waiver in place. The waiver has been positive, like it has been, of course, making the lives of U.S. citizens, Canadians, and Australians easier in a sense that basically they just need to buy a ticket and fly into Brazil. The federal government, the new administration is run by President Lula, who has a history of antagonism to the U.S., right? I don't know, like, I mean, I think you can tell he doesn't really like the U.S. or, the U.S. policies. One of the prior presidents, like President Dilma, she was a kidnapper of a U.S. Consulate, like personnel. And I'm not sure if she's still banned from entering the U.S. I think maybe they revoked the ban because she was the president of Brazil. But I mean, the entire like inner circle of the President Lula administration, they pretty much hate the U.S. Okay, so, but like this maybe goes like beyond like public policy. So the Brazilian Congress like is trying to avoid this requirement for U.S. citizens, Canadians, and Australians to come into Brazil. You know, the Brazilian Congress wants the waiver to replace. You know, people from these three countries they spend a lot of money in Brazil, which is great for the economy. So there is a dispute right now. That's another reason why expectation of the waiver going away on January the 10th didn't happen. And let's hope it doesn't come back again on April the 10th, all right? So see if you are a citizen of one of these three countries. If you are, you don't need the e-visa, all right? So that's the good news. Keith, from what I read, it sounds like a married couple getting retirement visas together would be a mess. I assume this is another place where the golden visa might be better. Keith, like, getting retirement visas, you could get to retirement visas, but if you have the resources, the golden visa is way better. It's incomparably better. I usually share about my friend Max. He's from California. We met back in 2012. We've been friends for all of this time, and he has a history like of immigration. Like he tried all the things you could possibly imagine, and the way for him to secure his permanent place in Brazil, it was through the golden visa. I think it was in 2022. It's like currently is studying to become a lawyer, and he did hire our firm and paid like for full service, okay, to get the golden visa with an inheritance. And he's from California, been living from 2012 until 2022. I think that's when we assisted with the acquisition of real estate. Now he is on track to become a Brazilian citizen, because the golden visa gives you an option for you as a permanent resident to apply to become a citizen. He absolutely loves São Paulo. Okay, that's where he bought his property. He loves São Paulo from the bottom of his heart. He travels to Rio de Janeiro. He travels to the Northeast. He probably traveled to way more Brazilian states than most people in Brazil are, able to do so because of financials, right? But his place of choice is São Paulo. That's where he bought his property. He's pretty chose São Paulo as his hometown in Brazil. And in a few years, he's going to apply for citizenship and he's going to become a Brazilian. Okay, happy story right there. So, like with the retirement visa, with the digital, with the nomad visa, they are all great options for you to get started in Brazil. Just like Max, like he used a bunch of those visas to stay for roughly like 10 years. But buying real estate was the real ticket for permanent residency and citizenship. Right? Okay, Cooper Giraffe, AD, thank you for the responses. God bless, Mr. Oliveira. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be of assistance. Okay, Pahalia, the third, thank you. I'm married to a Brazilian and reside in the US. All right. Listen, if you are from the US, so forget about the e visa. Okay, that's the good news for you. What options do I have to get a more permanent visa or residency in Brazil for retirement? I don't live in Brazil, so you will need to do this from the US. Well, as someone married to a Brazilian citizen, you have access to the permanent residency. But as you probably hinted in your question, you understand you cannot apply for permanent residency if you are in the US, okay? So I would say, listen, if you stay for up to 3 months, for up to 90 days, you can stay like once a year for up to 3 months. If you have a Brazilian spouse and you need to exceed like the 90 days, being married to a Brazilian who is in Brazil is going to be reason enough for the immigration to an additional 90 days. So right there, you can stay in Brazil for up to 180 days. So I don't think you need any visas at all, right? I think you're pretty solid as long as you are mostly living in the U.S. And if you guys decided in the future to live in Brazil, that moment in time, you can apply for the permanent residency. So I don't think you need any visas, unless, of course, there is something I'm not, I don't see here. So if you want to schedule a consultation so we can go over your objectives in Brazil. But from what you told me so far, I don't see a need for a visa. Okay? Kitty, obrigado, valeu, até a próxima vez. Absolutely, Kitty. I hope you continue to show up in our lives. Always very interesting questions, helpful to everyone here. Gerard, I'm confident with the 7 documents the Polícia Federal required for my identity interview for my CRNEMA. Do I need to bring anything else? A utility bill, a passport photo, anything new? So, Gerard, the main documents that they want to see are going to be your passport and your birth certificate with the apostille and the sworn translation. Okay, these are the 2 documents. Like, if you don't have these documents, like, you could be in trouble. But yes, they do ask you for other documents. Really, the address is going to be a declaration. Okay, you don't need a utility bill, particularly if you're just applying for your if you're digital nomad visa. Okay, so I don't think you need a utility bill. You probably need like a declaration for an address, passport photo. Usually they don't ask anymore. There is a short list. Listen, Gerard, like, I mean, you are such a good client. Like, I mean, if you just want to reach out to us, we can send you a short list with the things that you need. Okay, like, we have a list here at the firm. Just a heads up. Yes, the RNM, right? Like, you're doing the official name for the card is CRNM. People are usually referring to this document as RNM, which is Registro Nacional do Migrante, right? Or the Migrant National Registration. Heads up, I think you probably know about that. You don't get the card on the same day, usually. Okay, like, I know they have a distinction when you're older than 65. And sorry about that. I think you mentioned, I think I should be talking about the retirement visa, right? But either way, if it's a retirement visa or the digital nomad visa, usually you don't get the card on the same day, even if you are older than 65, just because, like, they need to do the card. They try to do that in batches. But the most often like, outcome is like you leave the interview with a printout. It's not a printout of the card. It's like a printout with the information from your registration. Is going to come with the RNM number. Okay, some banks, they are going to accept the printout for you to open a bank account. Other banks, they are going to want to see RNM number, which you're going to, RNM card, which you're going to get down the road. It could be a week down the road. It could be a month down the road. It could be a couple of months down the road. Okay, but reach out to our office. Again, you are a client, so reach out to us. We're going to send you a short list so you make sure that you're going to have everything that you need. Gebruiker Chinertan. Apologies if the pronunciation is not on point. When I do a Portuguese language school in Brazil, can I then stay longer than 90, 180 days? So my recommendation is make sure that you are studying in a qualifying school that's going to be able to get you the student visa. Okay, so just because you are studying Portuguese in Brazil, that doesn't mean you can stay for as long as you want. It just means that you can apply for the student visa, and the student visa is going to usually mirror how much time you're going to be studying in Brazil. Language schools, they usually don't have like a specific duration, particularly if it is non college degree. So if you're gonna be studying for 6 months, then maybe you don't even need a student visa because you could stay 90 days, and then you could go to the Polícia Federal to ask for an extension of additional 90 days based on the fact that you are studying, right? That could be a reason right there for you to get an extension. But if you're going to stay for instance, like for a whole year, in this case, yes, you do need a student visa, and the student visa is going to usually mirror whatever timeline is going to be required because Portuguese language is not a college degree. They could give you, in my understanding, up to 1 year, and then this 1 year would be renewable, of course, depending on evidence that you're going to need, to produce to show that you are still studying at this school. Okay. Pahalia, thank you. Are you in the future schedule a consultation when I'm closer to making plans to move? But my interest now is to buy property or business now, to set up my future retirement. Absolutely. Whenever you're ready, plans to move, that's the ideal timeline. Sometimes we have consultations with people who are like a week or 2 weeks from moving out of the country to come to Brazil. Not ideal because some of the documents that you're going to need for your permanent residency application based on marriage are going to take a while to obtain. So our recommendation is like once you have this plan in place, you could schedule a consultation, but give yourself at least 3 months to prepare the documents. Okay. Buying property, you don't need any visa to buy property. Potentially, you could even buy from abroad. However, right, usually there is a lot of problems with properties being sold to foreign citizens. We have like lawsuits in the Northeast, like people sell villas, front properties, particularly like pre-construction, and they promise like crazy things like 15% return on your money, right? And or not even getting the deed, right? Pretty bad. And we get like this unfortunate consult all the time, like up to, I don't know, like 3 months. We're telling people, you know what, try to work something out with the developer. Last call we got, like we had enough. We said, listen, sue these guys. Like it's time for people to start suing them, okay? So we have start to recommending people to sue developers in the northeast of Brazil taking advantage of foreign citizens. All right, that's traditionally we tell like the prospective client try to work something out before suing because suing a party in Brazil is not fun. A lawsuit to resolve, and you're gonna be paying good money, to a law firm to sue on our behalf. Good thing is as long as it's still solvable, right? Is it still financially viable? I mean, you're gonna get what you paid for and more, right? That developers in the Northeast are getting to a point in which we are recommending prospective clients to sue them. It shows like a change of modus operandi by these developers in the Northeast of Brazil. Okay, all right. Let me see if there is anything new in terms of actually being together for an hour. Like, so let's see if there is any final questions. Brooks, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. I'm always happy to conduct these live streams. I'm always interested in what's going on in clients' lives in the community of foreign citizens interested in Brazil, to very different reality. Some are gonna have like a romantic partner. Others just love the country for the natural beauty that we have, like the beaches, or the friendly people that you meet in Brazil. And no matter what the reason why you like Brazil, why you're interested in Brazil, we welcome you here at the firm for our live streams. Our next live stream is going to be on Wednesday. Okay, now we're going to be back on schedule. So we have next live stream is going to be January the 24th. If you are busy on Wednesday, we're going to have another live stream next Sunday, January the 28th. All right. So if any topics of interest you think during this timeline, make note and go to the channel. There is an option for you to click on the let me know once the live goes live, right? And then you're not gonna miss our live. Heads up if you're trying to, chat and YouTube does not allow you. Maybe it is because you're not subscribing to our channel. You can only ask questions and enter comments if you subscribe to our channel. So if you're not able to do so, that's probably the reason why you are unable to enter any questions or even see the chat window. Okay. All right, Falia, thank you. All right, thank you all, and have a blessed rest of your Sunday and a blessed next week. You take care.